In our last video, we talked about how the war was fought on the Eastern Front, and it was not fought, in some places fought in trenches, but mostly it was fought in typical warfare fashion. Gallipoli, down here you have Russia up here, and I pointed in the previous video, down here is Gallipoli, and Gallipoli was a strong point for Austrian-Hungary, Germany. Because here is your strait to go into the Black Sea. The Allies needed this strait open, which was controlled by, at this time, Turkey is a country today, but the Ottoman Empire. And so the Allies, Great Britain and France, could not help supply Russia, could not get supplies through this strait and into the Black Sea where they could supply the Russian army. So this was a major important goal for the English, who on the other side down here of the Mediterranean had Egypt, to break through, capture this so Russia could continue to be supplied. The British experienced a major defeat in Gallipoli, and that was pivotal with Russia having to drop out of the war. That contributed to that. Again, talking about the Russian army, and eventually in 1917 the Tsar was deposed and a new communist government was formed to take over and reform the country, and they said, we're done with the war. We cannot continue to be involved in the war. We need to go home and take care of our people. So Russia drops out in 1917 from World War I. What made the war so devastating in terms of casualties was the new technologies that were developed. The tank, the U-boat or the submarine, the airplane, poison gas, flamethrowers, grenade launchers, and the machine gun. And all these new technologies made killing so much more efficient and so much more widespread. The tanks, the French Renault tank was one used after a while. These were introduced, the British introduced them at the beginning of the war, and there were a lot of modifications and redesigns throughout the war. They were not very effective at the beginning, and they began to become more effective, especially if you look at this picture of no man's land, the kind of material or the kind of vehicle they would need to get across no man's land to attack the other side. So these are the first tanks, and their effectiveness was fair. Then you have the German submarine, the U-boat. And this picture will show you all the ships that were sunk by German submarines. Now this is significant because if you have supply ships from the United States, because we were on the side of England and France and Russia, supply ships, we weren't in the war, but we were going to support that side. These ships are being sunk. These supplies are going to the bottom of the ocean. So the U-boat had a very large impact in how the war, the duration of the war, because of their effectiveness. Then you have the airplane, and yes, the Red Baron, the song you hear at Christmas. The airplanes were first used in the war, and they would drop bombs, and airplanes you would have this dogfight, and they got the term dogfight from when the airplanes would stall. The engine would stall midair, and as the pilot is up trying to turn the engine on again, it would sound like a dog barking. So that's how, when they would go to attack and the engine would stall, they're trying to start it, that's where they got the term dogfight from. Better weapons, better ways to kill. The Germans first introduced the flamethrower, so if you are attacking across no man's land and they allow you to get close enough They just put their little nozzle up there and a flamethrower and they burn you to death. The other weapon that the Germans were known for, and it was made by Krups, or coffee, a lot of us think of that, is Big Bertha. And they developed these huge millimeter guns that could be well behind the trench lines and have a great impact on the other trenches. So if you're stuck in a trench and you saw the depth of them, and all of a sudden they start shelling your trench, very hard to dig out of that quickly enough to miss the shell. So that was another very effective tool. And now America joins the war. And America personally had different loyalties. Because of our natural connection with Great Britain in terms of the English language, that was the country we came from, there were a lot of Americans who were for the Allies. And yet, there were a lot of German Americans and Irish Americans, and we looked at that in terms of immigration, that really had a hatred for England because of England's imperialism and controlling their land. And so there were a lot of German Americans and Irish Americans that supported the Central Powers. There were many others that supported the Allies due to similar ancestry and things like that. When 9/11 happened and we were starting our war on terror and France would not support that, there were a lot of people, a lot of restaurants who decided to change their menu from French fries to freedom fries. And very similar things happened during this period where food was being changed. The nationalistic spirit came through, and we will look at more of that later. We liked the war because money talks. American businesses traded with the Allies. We made a lot of money. American banks lent large amounts of money to the Allies. In fact, at the end of the war, Germany was told to pay reparations, or the winning countries money for them losing the war, and Germany just finished doing that about 20 years ago. Germany really impacted our trading because of the U-boats. So our boats were being sunk quite a bit. One of the things that began to bring us and stir up American sentiment to be even more involved in the war, apart from making money. We really said, well, we want to make money off you guys, but we don't want to send our people there to die, was the sinking of the Lusitania. The Lusitania was, quote, a passenger ship that was going from America to England, and a German U-boat sunk it, and there were hundreds of Americans on there. And we said, it was just a passenger ship. Well, a huge explosion, which gives evidence that we were probably on this passenger ship also sending weapons to Great Britain. And so we had 128 Americans die. President Wilson did these protests, and Germany said, okay, we won't target passenger ships. But now American sentiment is getting stronger and stronger against Germany. The next thing that really pushes us is Germany said, okay, we won't attack your passenger ships. But what they thought was, well, let's get Mexico to attack America at its southern border. They couldn't do Canada because Canada was under the control of Great Britain. And so Germany had sent a telegram to Mexico, and they were saying, would you consider joining us, attacking America, keep America from sending supplies, from supporting the Allies? And so that telegram was intercepted by British intelligence, and that was made known to our president in America. Well, once they found out that Germany was trying to conspire to get another country to attack us, we decided no mas, we'll go to war. We'll continue with this in the next video.